Hello everyone, welcome back to another Strategoi video. Ryan here with a continuation of our AoS Worlds 2023 coverage where we're going to be breaking things down with the two teams that we interviewed before. Maybe we'll have more teams on next year, that would be nice. But this year we had two teams, and that would be in order Team Serbia and Team the Netherlands. And I've already actually run both of these interviews. It's just taken a while to get the material out because the videos are as long as they are. We try to make sure we give the team quality time to be able to respond to things, and those interviews tend to go over a couple hours. So there's the edits and all that stuff, but also just all the other stuff that's been coming out lately with the new GHB and Battle Scroll and then tournaments and other things that we try to keep up with. So anyway, I hope you guys find this interesting as a kind of part two, if you will, to the Team Serbia interview we did before. And of course, for those that don't know, I was also on the team as a mercenary. So this one is extra close to home for me. But anyway, we had on some lovely guests from the team. Some you've seen before, some you haven't. And I hope you guys enjoy. Without further ado, here's the coverage. All right, so here we are back with Team Serbia. We've got a few new faces here, kind of. If you watched all of the last interview, then you definitely saw Boris, but you'd be forgiven for accidentally missing the about 5 to 10 minutes he was on there. So let's start with Boris, since we might need a little refresher, and then we'll work our way around the newer faces, I guess. So Boris, welcome as an official full-time guest this time. You've been promoted. How are you feeling? Are you nervous for our little tiny channel? Yeah.
Yeah, I am slightly, though I have a few things going for me. So, I'm sporting a buttoned-up shirt. I'm, kind of in a better condition than last time. So I'm doing well, I would say. I'm presentable. It's good to see you again, and all the rest.
Right. I was watching back the live stream from Worlds of the time that the Netherlands team was on the stream, and there was a moment where the camera guy was walking through the hall and was passing you, and Honest Wargamer Rob was like, "Oh, there's Boris." So you with your long, luscious hair, everyone knows who you are. You are one of the faces of the team, so don't be too modest about your having to, pretty up for this. You're already the Florida man, so you're ready to go. While I'm on the topic of faces of the team, I might as well go ahead and introduce once again. No one's a stranger to Nataša, or Natasha's not a stranger to anyone here. She's kind of become another face of the AoS Worlds community at this point. Nataša, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent, thank you.
Is that the same hair highlight color you had last time I saw you, or are you just doing that to match the blue shirt, or is it vice versa, or has nothing to do with it?
No. The blue shirt is because of the hair.
Okay.
And you see also my cigarette is blue.
And the color
blue
on the headphones, too.
And the headphones. Yeah, blue is my new thing.
Okay.
It was red before that, but now it's blue.
Okay, do you have a matching pair of blue leather pants now to go with your next incarnation?
Well, I will not answer that online.
I meant the leather pants that you wear publicly.
I'm joking.
All right.
No. I was on the Worlds. I also had blue.
Okay, all right. Maybe I missed it. You know what's funny is I also had that same maroon color pants that you have, and I know Andre did too, and maybe someone else on the team. And I was like, why didn't we all coordinate this and just wear those maroon pants? That would have been great. I would have worn leather pants to be in unity with you. Why not? That was awesome. Okay, all right. Yeah. So moving on to our newest guest to the interview circuit here, and also one of my favorite guys from the team. I love the whole team, but Nemanja was the most recent addition, and he also was the last person I got to show around town. So I feel like Nemanja and I always find a way to make it happen at the last minute, and then it ends up being magic anyway. So this is Nemanja. Nemanja, tell us a little bit about your. Just who you are as a person. I know you're in the world of architecture, right?
Yes. Hello. Thank you for having me. Yes, I am Nemanja. I was part of the Team Serbia, and I'm doing architecture. I'm an architect, doing mostly designing. But now, when I got back from the Worlds, I was on the construction site in Belgrade. They sent me over there to see how the things are going. So a little bit of architecture, a little bit of Warhammer. So everything sums it up.
Sounds perfect. While I'm thinking about it, let's go through everyone's jobs because it's kind of one of those things I think we forget to realize is that Warhammer people have lives outside of it. For what it's worth, I don't currently have a life outside of Warhammer. I literally don't have a job. So this is a running theme, and hopefully this theme gets solved by the time the next few videos come out. But anyway, in the meantime, that literally is my job right now. But Boris, since we started with you, what do you do for work? Let everyone at home know.
Okay, so I live in Belgrade as all the rest of us do, and there is a small pond outside of Belgrade region, and I night watch frogs and I take pictures of them in decent positions. There is a market for those pictures, and it's lucrative, and I can play Warhammer and enjoy.
I can't tell.
Joking.
I can't tell. I can't tell if this is just an extension of the Florida man personality. or this is how you collected all of your Slan. I don't know where we're going with this, but I like it. I like it. What do you really do?
The actual job is I'm simply working in a South African company that works on LinkedIn predominantly as a network PR company, and I'm a team lead in simply managing people while thinking of frogs, and that's how my day job looks.
Which country is it from?
So the company itself is South Africa.
That's what I thought you said. Are you aware that South Africa has a connection to the Netherlands?
I mean, historically speaking?
Not just historically. Afrikaans, one of the main languages in South Africa, is a spin-off of Dutch. It was originally just Dutch, and it morphed into its own thing. So I can actually, and the people that speak Dutch can actually understand a good chunk of what those people, it's not the whole population of South Africa, but a good chunk of them speak Afrikaans.
There we go.
So kind of interesting. Okay, Nataša, tell the world what you're like, however many of the 3+ jobs you have going on right now. I can relate to your life because I was formerly a gigging musician, so I get the hustle side of it. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, I currently have 2 jobs that are like real jobs. My main job is I'm a pole dancer. I have been a pole dancer for a lot of years now. And in November, in November, it's going to be 10 years that I have a school. It's a school in Belgrade. It's called Aerial Arts. I'm the main instructor, owner and cleaner and everything else, as you know how it goes. So that's the main thing. That's my life, and that's my my passion. During the day, I also work in Boris's firm. He is not my team lead, thank God. I'm in a different team. Yeah.
To be clear,
also not a team lead yet.
To be clear, you guys are brother sisters, so you're siblings. So that's part of the reason you said thank God. But yeah.
They said it would be a conflict of interest, so they put me in a much tougher team. Boris is cool as a team lead. Yeah. Oh. Mine is a bit. Our group is harder.
All right. And we talked about this. Actually, you were kind of my guide when I was in Serbia. And one of the days when we were walking to the club, we stopped in your aerial studio, and I got to see it for a hot second. It is a nice space, and I think I told you that in my musician days, I had quite a number of gigs working with aerial dancers, with me playing music with them. So we have a bit of crossover there too. So. Anyway. All right, so we've done some intros of the people on the team. And then while we're on it, why don't we just talk about all the armies everyone plays just in general, not necessarily what we did at Worlds. So, Nemanja, you were ogres at Worlds. Do you have...
Yes, I am exclusively ogre player. So, but as I said to my teammates a number of times, because I'm one of the guys who played in this type of event earlier. My first TTC was with a 40K team back in 2013. So I have almost 10 years of experience in this kind of tournaments. So I told them that I can, for for this tournament only, I can easily adapt to any of the armies I can borrow or get in some way. But when we talked about it, we decided that I should go with ogres before, because I'm mainly playing with them. I own the models and miniatures. I know the army, and so we settled on that.
You know what's interesting is your personality, like as we talked about before with like the Serbian play style, at least what I experienced, is generally pretty like aggressive, but your play style in general is kind of the opposite of what I would expect of an ogres player. You're so calm and collected and strategic, and if I had a buck for every time you said blood pelt hunter, I think I'd be way wealthier now. You
Yeah,
love you
definitely.
love the techie units, so you know you can tell that you've made that army a different version of it. I feel like you were definitely the best ogres player I've ever played, and I feel like I learned a lot from getting to have that experience. So that was really cool. What did you play in 40K back in the day? Obviously, the meta changed over time, but what are some of the armies you like to play?
Yeah, I played. As I was saying, I I still own some of the Space Marines. Everybody has Space Marines, and when I got into this hobby, as a teenager, I bought Space Marines, but I've never played them at the ETC or the teams. I always played some other army. I played Eldar and Dark Eldar combination. I played some Chaos Demons allied with Tyranids, 7th edition. Those were the wild times.
Yeah,
You could
super
ally
soupy.
anything into anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super, super weird. So that's it. I played some different armies. I basically filled the role that was required at the time.
Okay, so really quick, is there any party that's tempted to be back in the 40K world now that 10th edition is getting more AoS esque? Is there is there anything kind of
Uh,
pulling you
well,
back?
Well, I don't know yet, because I'm really invested into AoS, and I'm still hyped because of the AoS Worlds, and everything, and I'm hyped for the new GHB and everything. So for now, I don't think that I'm going to even try the 10th edition. But from what I hear, uh, it's uh, it's better than the previous one, and the previous one was really not my jam, I would say. I played a couple of games in the eighth. I completely skipped the ninth, and now we shall see
Yeah,
what the time will bring.
sure.
But I definitely love the changes.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks more streamlined. If I wasn't transitioning from being a non-worker to hopefully someone who gets to stay here in Europe, I would be probably experimenting with it. But anyway,
Yeah,
on
definitely.
on to Boris. Boris, I know two of the armies you play. I because when I met you, you were playing Seraphon at the Alliance Open Teams tournament here, and then for Worlds,
Yeah.
obviously, you're playing Slaves. Is there anything else that's on the menu there for you?
Oh, no, that's pretty much it. So I'm a proud owner of a completely ridiculous amount of gray models. We are into the tens of thousands of points for each. But that's the only two that ever piqued my interest. So I was only a Seraphon player, and then one of our friends, I don't know if you met him during your stay here, the other Marco.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you did. So that guy phoned me up maybe a year and a half ago, shouting at me, "Enough is enough. You need to have another army. Nobody wants your Seraphon anymore." So at
That is
that
true.
point, yeah, so he was really mad about it. The what's it called, the straw that
Yeah,
broke the camel's
yeah,
back.
yeah.
He was really mad about it because I was simply only into dinos. As a little kid that I still am. It's all about dinosaurs. I sat down, gave it an honest opinion of like what can I reasonably appreciate in aesthetics. I don't really care about the points or the win rates, and I decided on the edgiest of boys, and I bought plenty of secondhand slaves, and then 3 days later, it was revealed to be like the next big battle tome coming in winter, like the amazing book art and everything. So he phones me up again, and he shouts, is it possible for you to play like a non-broken army? As soon as you got slaves, it's gonna get completely revamped, like the new incredible book, like all the stuff. So like that's the only two so far. I can't really see myself playing anything else in terms of like what can I appreciate.
Sure. Um, there was something that just came to mind, but maybe it's worth pointing out that the slaves actually in the new points that just came out today as of recording just had a lot of points drops. Are you feeling a little bit more
Oh yeah.
optimistic about them? I know
I
you're
mean the
leaning back
win
towards
rate.
Seraphon, but
I mean true, yeah, but like the win rate is one thing. I mean everybody likes to win. I like to win, like not by any means necessary, but like everybody likes winning. The slaves I've always considered to be like I'm gonna relax army. I appreciate them for what they do. The most difficult part of slaves army is like the list building. That's when you can lose the game in list building, which I believe was one of my flaws for Worlds, but we'll get to it. As far as the points go for slaves, like the points today were pretty wild. I'm liking them across the board.
yeah, it looked good. Um, and then Seraphon, obviously, no one's really seen what its full capabilities are yet because we're about to explore
Oh
the
well,
new season.
yeah.
But I think you'll have fun with that too. It looks good. Okay, Nataša, saving the best for last. Not really. Everyone here is lovely, but might as well say that everyone. What's great about this team is, sometimes when we do interviews, I feel like I'm trying to pull questions out of people and like really get to know these new people. But like you guys are all like some of my favorite people I've ever played games with and gotten to be around in the hobby. So. That positive vibe that we've had since the beginning, I still have a like extremely soft spot for all of you guys. So if that doesn't come through on this video, everyone at home is crazy. So there's much love going around here. But anyway, Nataša, so you obviously play Daughters. That's what you played at Worlds,
Yep.
and what you were also playing before at the AOTC. But then I know that you've got a really soft spot for Slaanesh. Is Slaanesh what's like the next thing for a while for you, you think?
Yeah, so I just became the proud owner of my fourth army, so I actually have four armies.
Okay.
But I think that Slaanesh is going to be my main army for a time now. It was always very, very close to my heart. I adore them. The honest reason I didn't play them more is because I'm very picky about painting, and then I was afraid that I'm not going to be painting them well enough, so I was waiting with that until I became good enough, whatever. So now it's time. I need to paint them. I need to play them, and they are at the moment my main army. Daughters of Cain was back deep in the shelf immediately after the Worlds. I think I really, really had enough of them. Yeah, so Slaanesh is my main thing. But I also have a pretty big collection of Nighthaunt.
Yeah.
And I just bought Gits.
Oh shit. Okay. Okay. So wait, where's that Storm Drake or the Star Drake we just saw that you just showed us off camera?
Oh, the Star Drake.
Where does that fit in?
I don't know. We need to show it again.
Oh.
Hide my Star Drake.
That's great.
So that's actually for our teammate Zeka.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm also a commissioned painter, and then he wanted the memory from the Worlds, which I find extremely cute. So he wanted me to paint it so that it fits his army.
Nice.
Yeah. So I have been working on this project from when we came back. Nice. So that's not mine.
Okay, so I guess you didn't see the changes today, but Gits got hit pretty hard today. Hopefully you're not.
I didn't buy them because of the meta.
Okay, good. Just to let you
know. No. And I'm not gonna be playing Gits, not for a while at all. Yeah. And actually, the army that I bought because it was second hand, it only has one Squig Herd unit.
We're
So,
good. 'Cause it's-
no. I wanted to have one from every big faction.
that's a normal approach. I don't know if I even have that. No, because I've got a million points and stuff, but I don't like death. Death, sorry to all the death people out there, but it's not my thing. And
Yeah, I
destruction, I'm
wanted to have.
barely.
Yeah, I wanted to have one from the destruction, but honestly, that's not my aesthetics, and I really don't like it. But gits are cute and funny and weird, and they're amazing. And I painted because of the commission painting thing, I painted a lot of squigs for 40k players, and I have a sweet spot for it also. So I wanted to have it, but I will not be playing that. I mean, I could play gits next Worlds if it's important. And if it's a team decision, that's something else. But for me, myself, Slanesh is going to be my main army.
Gotcha. Yeah, I actually started collecting gits before the new rules came out. I bought two of those Squiggle. What was it called? The box, the one that had Squigalanche. Yeah, I bought two of those boxes, like because I wanted to play Squigs for a long time, but I was hoping they were just going to make them reasonable, like as opposed to amazing. And so I'm actually really happy that the new rules nerfed them a bit because I want to play an army that feels fair, and I just never felt like Gits felt fair. But now it's good. It's good. It's turning around. They're coming into the realm of normalcy. Okay, so we've done intros. Everyone knows who I am, so we don't need to talk about me. Let's see. So Nataša, let's get the elephant in the room kind of thing that people might be wondering, because there's another lovely ass person who's from the Serbian community who everyone knows. He's the big teddy bear that everyone wants to give a hug to as soon as they see him, and we all love him. We're talking, of course, about Marco. What's going on with Marco? Let's talk about that so everyone at home knows what's going on.
So Marco was our captain, and for all of us, he is our captain, because he was the first guy that had this idea and presented it to us, and we were like, yeah, international championships, whatever. It was his vision, and I think he did it beautifully. But he wanted to step down, and someone had to pick it up, so I'm the acting captain at the moment.
So is there, I mean, let's say that Marco was never in the picture. So this isn't about between you and Marco. What is it about the captaincy that you were reluctant about doing in the first place? Is it just that it's a lot of like stress? Is you already have so much on your plate as it is with all your work stuff? Is it that I don't know. What was on your mind?
So the previous captain, the captain of Serbia before Marco, actually approached me and Boris in separate occasions and offered us the captaincy, and I declined because I already in my pole dance career, I organized a lot of championships. I am an international judge. I made the national championship, blah blah blah, worlds and so on, and I know from firsthand how much work this really is. So it's not something that's like a pipe dream for me. I actually understand the stress and the organization of people and the all the aspects of it, let's say. And my first joke was, I'm not going to be doing that for free.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But then we went to the Worlds, and before that we went right to Amsterdam to the Alliance Open, and we all got a feel of the international scene, and we love it. So someone needs to do it. Marco wanted to step down, so I was the next obvious choice, just because of my, let's say, previous work.
Sure. So, I mean, I think also with a well-oiled team, the idea is that everyone will, be pitching in too, and they don't need like sheep herding necessarily by someone. So, the captain is important, but for people that aren't aware of Worlds, I would generally say that no strength of a captain can pull a team that's not working together. Like it's just not going to happen. This is still a hobby at the end of the day. It's not like playing NBA finals or whatever. A World Cup where you need someone unifying everyone. Everyone ends up playing their games by themselves. And with the timeouts that you can have in Worlds, how much time do you get for a timeout? It's like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that?
2 minutes.
It's not long.
2 minutes.
So the captains, if they're doing stuff, it's a lot of behind the scenes. And then we could also have a coach. The team currently doesn't have a coach, or it didn't this last time. And that's also a role that a lot of times once the captain starts playing, the coach ends up filling the captain role in terms of interacting with the players. And so, it might sound like a huge deal that Marco's not the quote-unquote face of the team, but like at the end of the day, everyone loves him. Everyone loves you. Like the whole team's going to be fine, and that's not really a problem. It's just a matter of what he felt like he needed to do, I think. So, Boris and Nemanja, do you have anything you want to weigh in on or should we move on to the next thing?
Nemanja, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. What I have to say is that Marco did a really good job. He organized a group of people, not necessarily like people who went to AoS Worlds, but he managed to organize 7 other gamers who committed their time and resources to go on an event like this. And as you said, in the end, it's only a hobby, but he managed to like motivate all of us to play games basically on a weekly schedule. To play tournaments, to talk with each other, and so what he did was a great job. And after the Worlds, when everything was finished and when we came back to Serbia, we were all had like different feelings, and I can understand why he was feeling the way he was, because he was the captain, and not because of the role, but because he put his time and energy into forming this group of people. He also probably felt like at least part of this, I would say, sadness from each player that he managed to pull into the team, and that's why he decided to do what he did. And I agree that Nataša will do also a great job because of her previous history. She's an experienced player. She is an experienced organizer. So I don't have doubts that she will do a fine job.
Definitely. Okay, Boris.
Famous last words.
So I will only say one thing about all of this. So none of our hobby engagements would be happening, at least. Well, I'm not certain about Nemanja, but Marco and I go further back. And a couple of years ago, I still remember the car drive we were in. He mentioned to the 3 other persons in the car, like, hey guys, we can go to the neighboring country and compete in a tournament. Like, it wasn't even a flight, it was a neighboring, like, we can go to a neighboring country and go, like, play a tournament. And we laughed for the entire car drive, for the entire night, and then for a few weeks afterwards. Like, why it was simply not a thing that we would do. And then fast forward to here, I mean, the outcome was the outcome, but overall, plenty of things were involved, and if it weren't for Marco, I don't know, we would have been worse off. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Also, I feel the need to say that the fact that he's stepping down from the captaincy doesn't mean he's stepping down, of course, as a player. And he still wants to compete, and he's still on the team and everything. While we were in the process of organization, I was his second hand, and the way he was a captain was, of course, he made the last judgment calls, but he always asked his team, and I plan to also work in the same way. So it's not really that much of a shift, I'd say, at all for our group dynamic. It's more just like the face that's in front, but for us, it doesn't matter a lot.
So while we're on the topic, I feel like it might be good to just address, Nataša, what your plans are for team membership moving forward. So I have made it super public with everyone I've talked to that I consider myself lucky to have gotten to play with you guys even once. I'm a mercenary. I'm from outside of the community, and I fully expect to have to compete for my slot for next year. So, because I think it should be, if you guys put together an amazing team of people from Serbia, it should be an amazing team of people from Serbia. And hell, if I have to be your coach, then I'll be your coach. So whatever it makes sense. But at the end of the day, I don't want anyone back in Serbia thinking that I think I earned a spot permanently on this team. That's not how I think it should work. But how does it work for the rest of the team too? Are you guys, are you guys going to try to? Obviously, the meta is only so big there, and so it's and then depending on where the location is, we're about to find out in a few weeks where the next Worlds is. What are your thoughts?
I think the bid finishes tomorrow, right?
Yeah, and if we don't get another one in, I think the Netherlands is the only one that's in right now. So it might be back in the Netherlands for next year. But in any case, Nataša, what is your take on this? Have you formulated? Maybe you haven't formulated a full plan on this yet because it's fresh right off Worlds. We're only a month out. But what are your thoughts about team membership in general?
So a lot of people that are very, very, very good players weren't that engaged last time we applied, but it turns out that they want to be engaged now, which is beautiful to hear. So I think that even though we had the success we did, it brought up something, and our community is growing and becoming more coherent. So it is possible that we will be seeing a lot of old new players, so to say, actually our seniors, and people that are much longer in the hobby that I am, for example. These are actually Nemanja's friends from back in the day. So we are very much looking forward if they want to apply. Also, last time, was it last time or was it in the interview with Rob? I think that maybe Marco suggested we also have some international people here that are resident in Serbia, so they will also be maybe taken into consideration if they feel like it. They are very good players. So I think because of our growing community, that it is possible that I will need to make some kind of a statement of who can apply. It will not be anyone anymore. Please don't you get me wrong when I say anyone. It's not towards you. It's towards any of us. So all of us, we will need to show our worth in the next year, me included. So we will see if it will be something like the top scoring, I don't know how much in a national competition that is big enough, or we will structure it. It's not formed yet, really, but I think it is needed that we step up, because now we saw it. We saw the world arena. It's harsh and it's different from what we expected. We were naive. So I think we will need to pull much more next year.
Okay, I mean, obviously you're not expected to have 100% full plan going right now anyway. We don't even know where the event's going to be. So if it's particularly far away and it becomes financially, difficult for people, it makes it that much harder. So like in the conversation I just had with the judges, Gareth Thomas, or he goes by Tom, who is the head judge, he's from Wales, but he lives in California, has lived in California for 20 years. He knows the American scene quite well. And he was saying that there's kind of an unspoken rule, or maybe even spoken, that if you want to be on the American team and go to Worlds, you have to be willing to give out about $10,000. Because over time they have 1 or 2 trips that they have to fly to each other and train, because they're coming from such a long, distance. And then they, of course, have to fly over here, get hotels the whole time, and they're not just coming for the length of the trip. It becomes quite an investment. And there's a lot of people that just can't afford that. Even if they have the money, they can't take that much time away from their kids or whatever. So there's definitely Worlds does not necessarily mean the top players from a country. Just in case anyone in a country is feeling like this is like the top people from everything, it's the top people who can also afford to take the time off and afford to go. And so that's
Exactly.
not so like it's not necessarily a feel bad for some people that don't go. But it is what it is. Obviously, we hosted here in the Netherlands this past year, and that makes it easier for someone like me to say yes to it. But I would have, for what it's worth, if it had been in Serbia, I would have come anyway. But because I'm still of the mindset that I'm coming to you guys once a year to train, just because I love you guys and I want to hang out with you. So on that spirit, let's talk about the actual trip. So we decided we kind of go through it a little bit chronologically. So you guys flew in on Tuesday at the butt crack of dawn, the day before singles began, and then 4 out of the 5 team members ended up doing singles. Plus Mia, our lovely assistant for the trip, played in singles. And then, so that's the day 1 and 2. It's a GT, so 3 games, 2 games. Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 2 games apiece was Worlds for teams. I call it Worlds because it's the main event, but it's teams. And then the last day, you guys flew home very early, except for Nemanja there. Nemanja and I had a lovely day hanging out that day, and to wrap up a lovely week together. So from Tuesday to Monday. Who wants to talk about Tuesday at all? Or maybe do you guys want to start with just singles and then we'll come back to Tuesday? And yeah, maybe we'll do that part later. Let's start with singles. Who wants to get us started on the singles train?
I'll start talking simply because we've been listening to Nataša for a bit. So
and me.
I will say singles. Well, yeah, but I will say singles is like the casual fun, right? Like, first of all, everybody approached it simply because, it was a teams event with singles attached. Not everybody that was in teams, well, I think it was a minority percentage probably that played in teams actually played in singles as well. But it was a lot more casual and, having won more games than I lost, I have to say I was very happy with singles as an outcome. Singles simply as an experience, it was excellent. It was the way I remembered it from September as well. Walking around, high fiving, like good stuff everywhere. The games that I lost, they were fun. The games that I won, slightly more fun. So it was a good time. I got to high five Rob as well. He high fived me as well back. So I'm feeling special here. Everything else was fun. I would say.
When you say that it's casual, there's I think it's worth putting into perspective that a lot of the local people I know here that weren't on Worlds teams, and some of the people from the Flemish side of Belgium that came to play, everyone was in agreement that it was way harder than a usual singles tournament. Like, it was not.
So I will say,
yeah.
I need to explain what casual means for me. So casual for me means if I measure something and it's 7.5, the guy glances and we are in agreement it's 7.5. Because in teams, if I measure something 7.5, then it gets double measured, and then we have to hold the elderly council if it's the 7.5, or is it not? Is it yes? So it's a lot more casual with approaching it with the benefit of a doubt, with the engagement of hoping to have a better time with your opponent than not. So I would say it's less strict, it's less pressure, I would say. That's what I mean by casual. People were approaching it with a smile, you high five a guy, oh, I see you brought gifts, that means you're a bad person. And then the guy says, I really am a bad person, I did bring gifts. So it was that type of conversation, it was high fives all around, at least in my experience, of course. So that's what I mean. In terms of competition, obviously it's probably not like the highest tier. I don't really know what the highest tier. Probably like the LVO is probably considered like the premium singles event. But as far as everything else goes, yeah, competition was incredible. Lots of great people were there competing. It was some of the toughest games I played and some of the best Warhammer I played as well. So it was a good time.
But you know what? You didn't just win more games than you lost. You also won a special award. Do you remember, or is the rest of everything clouded it over too much for you? You also walked away with Best Florida Man, as in most best sportsmanship, and yeah, that was a pretty good feel-good moment for all of us, really, to see you go up there.
Yeah,
So
yeah, so it came definitely as a surprise, especially so a singles event ended. You know, it's day two, the games are played. There's a guy on the stage with a microphone. There's a crowd going on, and we were huddled in a group watching it happen, thinking nothing of it. You know, none of us are going to walk on the podium, right? And then the guy starts with like, okay, so these are the best painted. These are the champions and stuff like that. And then he goes, we have the best sportsmanship award. It's going to the repeat offender, and you know we are already starting to leave. You know, we didn't think nothing of it, and then my name gets called out, and I was confused by what it means to be you know, how come it's a repeat, and then because it's the same group of judges, the same venue, they meant like the September event happening as well, where we won it as a team.
Yeah.
In my defense, so I mean, it felt nice. Some of the pictures, like I've gotten slightly bit fat, so I started going to the gym when I returned to Serbia. Well, returned to the gym because I took a casual year off, you know, and it was showing on those. So like, it is what it is.
I hear you had a nice. Go for it.
Yeah, when his name was spoken, I was in such a shock. I wanted to take a video of the award ceremony. I almost dropped my phone on the floor because I was so excited and I wanted to do so fast because he already started walking down there, and it was it was such a good moment for,
well, the thing was, you had just gotten into town. Like Marco and I went to pick you up at the airport, and I was insistent for Marco that we had to get back in time to see the end of singles. And so we got back. Not that Marco was delaying or anything, but like I really wanted to see the end and see who won everything. So you had just gotten in. You hadn't had much time.
Yeah.
So you were also like, what's going on? But yeah, it's a good way to be greeted to the atmosphere and stuff. Okay, Nataša, your experience at singles.
I loved it. I had, you know, in your previous video, I told you what my hope is. My hope is to play against the best. Well, that happened. I played against the reoccurring champion. That was my first game. So that was also
the French player.
Was amazing.
The French player.
Yeah. He plays good. That was my first game. He stomped me. So that set the tone for the rest of it for me, and it was, as Boris said, stage casual, because all of us, we went to singles to have fun and to have more experiences, and actually to see some different builds and armies that we don't have the possibilities to see here. So it was excellent. And I must say my favorite game, I think, was against the American Zinch. It was exactly as Boris says. We were taking back some steps because we were learning some mechanics, and we were like, "Ooh, look!" And now we could do this, and then look at this. It was a fun game among friends.
Oh, we lost your audio.
Oh, there goes the battery.
Okay, so Nataša, you were just saying about your game with Matt Beasley. I looked it up, but I had a feeling that's who it was, the American Zinch player. You were talking about measuring distances, or that you guys were like doing some takebacks or whatever it was, and you were on a train of thought there. Go ahead and continue from there.
Yeah, so that's wildly different from the games that afterwards were happening in the Worlds, right, in the group section. Because it was in that way super casual, and it was fun, and it was a friendly teaching experience of doing something new and wild. So it was very cool. I loved every single game I had in the singles, and it's peak Warhammer experience. It's why I like to play. You know, when you're goofing around with people and just having a time. It was excellent. I loved every moment of the singles. And of course, the placement was exactly the same as we always have it in Serbia. So from our team, so it was as expected. It was very nice.
How do you mean the placement?
Well, from us, Boris was first, and then Atse was second, and then I was third. Gotcha. And then we always joke how Atse is in Belly sandwich. Because her last name is Belly.
Oh, right. Okay, right. So before we stop talking about that, I see that your last game was against my buddy Bram Handels. So this was the Gits player. He's a Dutch guy that lives closer to the border, and he's actually, I think, aware of this channel and follows it a bit. Did you have anything you wanted to say about that game, since he, might be watching?
That was a very fun game because I have never played against any other type of Gits army except for, of course, the herds. So I was scared when I saw what I'm going against. But he's an excellent guy, and he explained me the rules, even though I didn't know them all. And we had a blast. I loved him, and we shared a beer during the game. It was great.
Nice. And while I'm on that thread, Boris, you played against Chico in your first game, and then your middle game was against Terry. So do you have any memory? Like Chico, let's see, was playing at this event Gits as well, and then Terry was playing probably Slanesh. Yeah, he was playing Slanesh. Do you have anything? Those guys are both in the Dutch scene. Do you have any recollection of those games?
So, yeah, of course I do. That. So game one, I will probably remember for a while. I got bonked so hard. It was not a game. So turns out rock guts simply can't kill them. So I was so I charged the unit, and then I activate and I kill 0 models, and then he activates and then he kills 6 Vanguard, and then we shake hands. I mean, I'm dramatizing a bit, but that's pretty much how it went. It was not really a game. We had good fun, but I lost handily, got destroyed. But he's a great guy. I will say, I probably pestered him a bit throughout the tournament. I was rooting for him because if the guy you lost to wins the entire thing, no shame in the loss. You did well. Everybody lost to him, right? That was my hope. But yeah, he's amazing. Yeah. And then your Slanesh friend, he was. I have no words to describe him without bordering on the Serbian humor of extremes. So he was a very intense person. I enjoyed it a whole lot. He was incredible. I was getting the vibe that we were, having the same amount of fun on the table. He returned the energy that I was sending out. It was excellent. There was some incredible dice that game happened for a change in my favor. So he did an ungodly amount of attacks on my Chaos Lord, who simply said, I'm gonna step away from the arrows. They went around next to him. Nothing happened. And then the game snowballed with some crazy chosen spiking and stuff. So it was a memorable game in both of a good time and dice rolls.
Okay, so we've had a few technical. GorkaMorka is trying to mess everything up today. So we got our whole audio setup, got hand of Gorked and foot of Mork, or whatever the rest of them are called. I don't know the names, but everything got stomped and squashed and teleported. Boris, you were in the middle of saying something about Terry, and I don't know if you finished your thought, but I just want to say the guy is always fun to. He's a sweetheart, and I played against him once with my Eternal Conflag list at a tournament where he was playing. Nataša, you'll get a kick out of this. An all Chariot Slanesh list. This was before the new book, so which is even worse. But he went full in on the meme, and he even had I think as most of his chariots, the riders were snakes from Daughters of Cain that he converted over to Slanesh. It was really cool. So and it was a fun game. So he's a lovely guy. All right, so let's move on to we talked about singles. I think we're good. One question I did want to ask you guys before we totally moved on was there was a little bit of debate in the team. Does playing singles beforehand wipe you out too much? Or the converse, does it help you prepare and kind of get in the groove for Worlds? You guys were both, of course, leaning towards the latter interpretation. Do you feel pretty positively about your choice to do it, and would you do it again, doing singles right before Worlds?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wasn't in the right state of mind, I must say, for my first game. And after that, I picked it up a lot. So it's good that my first game wasn't in the groups. I think that it's a very good warm up, and it didn't waste me at all. And I don't think that it happened for any of us, especially actually for Andre. He didn't do that well in the singles, and after he smashed in the group. So I think it was a very good choice for us.
Boris, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm gonna add to that the more important thing. So the singles event is 2 days and the teams is 3 days, which means if you come to the singles event, you have 2 more days of the best hotel food, and it's really good. So in terms of actual fatigue and player skill, I'm a firm believer that it is nothing but an improvement. So of course I'm a sweaty gamer of like PC enjoyer for well, not really 30 years yet, but like for a long while, right? And I'm used to sitting down, doing the same thing, dying on the same boss for 15 hours a day. Like I'm used to that. So it's very difficult for me to get tired like in a normal sense. So having said that, getting on the singles and getting completely destroyed game one by rock guts and trolls, like I was ready to actually win some games after that, right? So it gets you in the right set, I would say.
Yeah. Nemanja, I know you were the only one on the team that wasn't there for even the days of singles, so you couldn't have done it based on your flight schedule and your availability. Is there any part of you that really wishes you had done singles, or that you were just there earlier to kind of be there?
Well, I would definitely love to be there earlier, but my time and my work didn't align, but I also share the sentiment that the singles part of the worlds is a good preparation when you approach it as they did. Like you do not play like with the full focus. You take some time to play casually or semi-competitively. To try something like I don't know if I push the six Varangard in front of the like Blades of Corn army. How much will they survive? How much does he need to commit? And stuff like that. I think that singles is a good place to do that, especially when uh, like in Serbia, you do not have opportunity to play against a whole range of armies. And when you meet something like, I don't know, KO or Blades of Corn at the singles, you should definitely go and test the survivability or the damage output of your units. So the singles is a right place to do that.
That's fair.
I will
Yeah.
add to that an important part. So it's not only the access to which armies have we encountered, but also the player behind. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty much like I'll use myself as an example. So I played Seraphon, right? We have a few other people collecting Seraphon locally, but like I'm the guy playing 2 games a week. And if anybody played Seraphon, they played the army, but they played me. I played a certain way. So it's an excellent opportunity to actually see an army perform different things. Some people maybe have a tendency to run and shoot the bliss barbs at like all the way to the side of the board, like do the thing. Maximum range. Some people like to actually use one as a screen up front. I've seen one different benefit that I have is I tend to play games quick. So in singles, most of my games were done like in an hour, which means I get to watch the best player. Well, not really the best. We've covered that part. People who could come. I get to watch them for 2 hours, which is incredible. I've seen amazing things happen on the board, and you learn so much from it.
Not to shit on it too much, but some of the players there really are the best players in the world. And my point earlier was not that it's not the best per se, but that it has an inherent limiting factor. Yeah. That's all. Like, a lot of those players are some of the best players in the world for sure.
Absolutely.
Nataša, I have to say I'm a little disappointed that your screen's blurred out because I saw there's a cat, and I love cats, and that's too bad. I saw the blur. I knew it was a cat, but I was disappointed that there wasn't more high definition catness going on. Katniss Evergreen.
Yeah, there's two of them.
Yeah, right.
But my room is a mess, and I don't want it online.
It's fine. The rest of my room is. I have battle tomes all over the floor right now because today was my spending 5 hours breaking down every new rule that came out. So anyway, doing my homework. Okay, so singles, we covered it. Let's talk about teams. So who wants to start with the team's experience? Maybe Nemanja, since you had just arrived in time for this, if you want to kick it off. Kind of your first thoughts about the teams and whatever angle you want to cover on that. And then we'll just kind of flesh out. We don't have to do it chronologically necessarily, but whatever, stuff everyone wants to add.
Yeah, teams. What we knew before was that our first game is against Poland. And from their previous results, we knew that they were aiming for the top 10 or even top 5. And I was really excited. This is my first, or was my first Worlds AoS, and I really didn't know what to expect from those guys. When we sat down and started with the pairing, I was really hyped. I remembered how it was back in 2019, 2016, and I really fast got into the competitive mood. I don't know how to flesh it out, but I was really excited and I wanted to get into the games really quick. I wanted to see if all those months of preparation are now coming to effect. So that was basically my first impression when I got to the table.
Sure. And for the record, Poland was the best performing team that we ended up playing against. So just for an overview, we played Poland, then Czech Republic, and then we played Austria, Ireland, Northern Ireland, and Greece. So that was the sequence that we played, and that's 2 per day. And so for those at home that don't know, you typically know the first out of every pair longer than you know the other one. So because you know the first one from like weeks before, then you know number 3 from the end of the day before the pairings are given with enough time to prepare, and same thing with 5. But it's 2, 4, and 6 that you have less preparation for. You can kind of project it a bit based off of where the standings are sitting. But like there was a moment where, for example, we were sitting at lunch on day 1, I believe, and we thought we were going to be playing the Netherlands. To the point where we were talking about them, strategizing, and then Nick came over and tried to say, hey, you guys should be a little quieter when you're talking about them. Because we were sitting next to each other on the standings, and also I'm in a number of the Dutch chats, and there were a number of people that weren't playing for the Worlds, talking about how there was a good chance Nick and I were going to have to go against each other, and people were like rooting for us to have to play against each other. So it really did look like our two teams were going to play against each other, but then it never happened. It never manifested in that round. It's entirely possible it could have manifested later, but just because you're sitting next to each other in the standings does not mean you go against each other. And Poland, my point here is also that of the teams we played, Poland performed 9th out of 24 in the whole thing. So you're right, they did do pretty well at the end of the day. So is there anything, like, maybe it's good for each of us to talk about a match. I've already talked about my stuff in one of our videos, but for the rest of you guys to talk about a match that was particularly rewarding for one reason or the other, and maybe one that you learned the most from, if it wasn't the same one. So Nemanja, did you, while we're talking, to you about this stuff, did you have one match that you're the most proud of, and then maybe one that like taught you the most about, walking away from an experience like this?
Well, all of my matches were nice and people I played against were amazing. Uh, I didn't have any like suspicious or sketchy situations that required us to like call the ref or consult the rules and FAQs for a long time. Everything was like pretty chilly. It wasn't like in the singles. We like double checked the distances, and we paid attention to the rolls and everything. It was highly competitive, but we didn't have like a moment where we locked horns and didn't want to budge. But first game I played against the Polish captain. He played the Daughters of Cain. Uh, it was a tough matchup, as I expected. I knew his army because I played against Nataša so many times, both in like our weekly games and in the tournament. So there he couldn't do anything to surprise me. So that was my edge, and in the end, that's basically why I won. I will just go really quickly through all my games.
Sure.
The second one was a mirror matchup against the Czech guy who also played ogres, but he played iron blasters. I spoke with him later over a beer. He said that he also preferred the monster trucks, which were overall theme of the ogre lists, but that the team required from him to play the shooty list. But I wasn't afraid because my list had so much sustain that I wasn't afraid of his shooting, and I won. We played the lurkers below, the weird scenario where you win from the third round. The third one was against Austrian Lumineth. I was really confident because the scenario was the one where you have 5 objectives and you turn them on one by one. I think it's Prize of Galette, right? Um, and I got there pretty quickly. I got the double from going from first to second battle round, and that's when I pressured him on and almost wiped his entire army. So he was a really sweet guy. We like laughed all the way. It was good, but the mission and the double really got into my favor. Um, then the fourth one, yeah, what I will just say here quickly, but after the third round and the third defeat, we did the rotation of the people who are doing the pairing process. Someone can like take that later, but we did a rotation, and we paired people. I think that against the Ireland, we did the pairing best. I think that uh, we did a really good job. I got paired again against Lumineth, but this one was on the idols, so it was a diagonal deployment. So there was much more space between my Stonehorns and his archers. That was the first game I lost, but also in his favor was that the guy played ogres both in fantasy and in AoS for like 10 or 15 years. When we got paired, the first thing he told me, "Do you have a WhatsApp? I want to put you in the ogre group.
Nice.
It's mostly food and recipes, but there is like a 5% of Warhammer."
Nice.
As that goes with
But
the
you don't
ogres,
have
but
WhatsApp,
it's the
right?
same. Yeah, I do not have WhatsApp.
Yeah, right.
but I told him that I will find him on Discord, and maybe if I install the WhatsApp, then he can add me.
Right.
I'm always up for the recipes.
Um,
So that was the game 4. Then against Northern Ireland, in the fifth battle round, I played the Lurkers again. It was against 12 Varangar. That was the first game where my Frost Lord whiffed so hard. I was so disappointed. The Frost Lord is my favorite guy. I include him almost in every list, as almost every ogre player does. But that was the difficulty to my already struggling list. Um, that was the game where three times he had like one Varangard left on one wound. It was really really tough. So that was also the game I lost, and probably the most fun game I had was in the last round against a German guy who played as a mercenary for the Greeks, Lukas Kaluza. I think he was fourth in the singles.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he was fourth.
I'll check real quick.
Yeah, and
yeah, that's right.
He had a standard gits list. I mean, standard. He didn't have like 2 times 36 squeak herds, but he had hoppers, squeak herd, and everything that supports those two units. So that was also a fun game. I think that I didn't put a single attack across 5 rounds into a squeak herd. I decided just to ignore them and try to kill everything else. It worked out well for me. It could have gone easily on both sides, but the my favorite model, uh, Bloodpelt Hunter, had his time of the. It was not the finest hour. It was like the finest day. I don't know, the finest round, because he managed to kill five Boingrod Bounders in Unleash Hell. He charged me, and I was like, okay, if he will probably kill him and take the objective, but I have like 3 command points, I will spend 1 CP and try to like inflict some damage, and then he killed all of them. So it was probably the most lucky moment of the tournament for me, and came in the last round when we were all exhausted, and some of us were probably ready to go home and call it a day. So it was really fun. And in that round, you were saying that ogres earlier, that ogres are aggressive and everything, and then that I play them like tactically, and I move them around and shuffle them. That was like the textbook of of
The
that
Nemanja style.
approach
Yeah.
for me.
Nice.
Yeah. I stuck in really hard in the first battle round, and then I saw that I pressured him back enough and just pulled back in all directions. He couldn't like catch all my monsters in time, so I just outscore him every turn.
Nice. Okay, so
that was like a quick sum of my games. It was really fun. I had like such a good time. I was so happy to play the team tournament again after like 5 or 6 years of break. So it was amazing. And the time in between when we sat down and talked about the games, made preparations for the next matchups, it was so good. And the food was good. That also added to it. Yeah.
so
Every ogre player appreciates the good food.
yeah, evidently, you're maw potting it up. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm collecting things that come to mind that I think are interesting questions that I'm going to save for later. So what I want to do is go through the other two people here, and then I'm going to go through and do a flash round where I ask you my questions that come to mind, and then we'll just do question one for each of you, and then question two, question three, and then we'll kind of split it up a little bit more. But in the interest of time, let's go on to Nataša. How about we mix it up? Nataša, tell us whatever you want to say. You can focus on the games that you learned the most, my kind of like general format of that. If you want to go through all 6, that's fine too. Whatever you feel like covering, and let's just hear your perspective on stuff.
So it was weird because I play the most obvious list in the army that everyone has seen for a very, very long time. So absolutely every single one of my opponents was very ready against me, and they played a lot of games against that exact list, and they knew how to play against me. So I think that's a huge detriment going forward. Possibly it's not a good approach for teams formats and worlds scene, is what I learned, because I do believe I'm a good Daughters of Cain player, but sometimes just when people know exactly what you will do or what your best course of action should be, they're prepared, right? And they have a very good feel of exactly how much damage I can do and where I should go, and all the small finesse things. They are never surprised. So that's the biggest take back I have from Worlds, is everyone knew exactly before I did it what's going to happen.
So just for everyone back home, real quick, you had the Marathi and the Bow Snakes plus 2 units of the Harpies, I think. Maybe it was more, but I think it was 2. And you were in Kylabron, so you had some extra teleporting. So it's a list that's kind of a known list, and that's kind of your point, obviously.
Yeah. So it's very known. Every single one of my opponents told me that he had at least 20 games against exactly this list, and that they have prepared. So taking that into consideration, I still did well enough, but I guess next time this is not how I'll choose my army or my list, is what I'm saying. That's the biggest observation and lesson from Worlds. My opponents, all of them were brilliant. I adored every single game I had. I had no problems with no one whatsoever. I think that with every single one of them, I had a beer afterwards. So great people, and I had an excellent time. I will not go into so much detail just because of time. I think that possibly I'd mention 3 games that I liked most. So my second game was against Cruel Boys. Shout out to that amazing human being. I can't believe that someone came with that. So I was thinking, sitting to the table, I was thinking like, yeah, I'm going to fuck him up. I didn't. It was devastating. It was a hard game. The guy was brilliant.
And by the way, his name is Pavel.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy.
He's an excellent guy. I love that game, and I learned a lot. Of course, I lost, but it was amazing. And that game shows that we as a team had a bad understanding of matchups, actually, because I thought I could do it, and then I marked it green. And it's a mistake because I didn't play against them, and I just thought that because of the success rate, right, of the army, which isn't a correct assessment at all, and that's why it turned out the way it did. I had another beautiful game against the North Ireland guy. I'm very sorry with I'm terrible with names. He played Gits. That game was intense until the very end. I lost only by 2 points. It could have gone any way. At one point, when I double turned, I need to step away from the table so that I can scream in the hall. How excited I got! It was great. And my last game was against the captain of Greece, which I'd say was the most techie game I had, because it was very, it was very positioning, and it was very intense on the battlefield. Not against him; he's an amazing human being, but it was possibly my best game, even though it was the last one, which is weird. But it was possibly my best game, and I'm very proud of the way I did it. So all in all, some lessons were learned. It was very hard having the feeling that I'm going into every single game to lose less. You know, that's something that isn't that good of a place to be. But nonetheless, all of the games were amazing and I learned a lot. And I'm very happy to have met all of those people. I'm in contact with them now, so excellent times.
The guy that you asked about his name, the Gloomspite Gates player from Northern Ireland, his name is Craig.
Craig, yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't, Nemanja, before I forget, while we're on the topic of Northern Ireland, when we walked around the city the next day, on Monday, we bumped into Northern Ireland. Did you bump into your opponent? Because I didn't bump into mine because he was a mercenary for the team and he wasn't with them. But did you see your guy?
Yeah, he was there.
You guys have good vibes still after the fact when everything, all the dust is settled?
Yeah. We had an amazing time during the game and after the game. You know, we had a beer and talked. You know, he's a wonderful guy.
I wanted to say another thing that I learned, so to say, from my games. So most of my opponents, I asked them what is their main army.
Yeah.
And most of them don't play usually what they played on Worlds.
Yeah.
Which was such a new idea for me and for the way that we trained and practiced for this. Because most of us, we were of the opinion that we should come with something that we are best at.
Yeah.
And not what is possibly maybe needed for the actual meta or against other people or so to say.
Right.
So, for example, I played against a Slanesh player from Austria who told me, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, that he played it for like half a month or only a month, and that this isn't even his army at all. It's not his plastic. Yeah. So that it's just his team needed him to play it, and he's going to play it. So this is something that's very inspirational for me, and I think it's an intelligent way of thinking going forward. Because something that we didn't think about is that we do have a lot of people in Serbia that are actually very appreciative of us competing. And if we asked, we needed, for example, a GITS army, I'm sure that like 10 different people would give us their armies.
Sure.
And that we could have had the top meta if we wanted it. So it's just something that didn't come to mind, honestly, at least to me. So it was amazing to see the group effort and the group thinking that my opponents had.
Sure.
And the sacrifice in a way.
It is a sacrifice. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but it's everyone does it on some level. You know, like in retrospect, you might wanted to play Slanesh and you sacrificed to play something because you thought it was better for the team. To play something that you're more familiar with, and your heart was more in Slanesh at the moment. So, I mean, in a sense, you were doing the same kind of thing for the team. It just might not have worked out as well as it could have the other way, maybe. But, you know.
That's something else. That's not what I mean. But in preparations, for example, like 5 months in advance, because the next Worlds will be much more balanced, and we will know the books for long enough, we'll know the rules for long enough. It's going to be different than this time when everything was fluctuating the way it was. We can start preparing even with armies that maybe we don't own per se or something. So it's we have a different state of mind now after the Worlds.
Sure. Yeah. My point is just that where your heart is and whether you think it's the right move is still obviously there for the team. It's not. It's a way to give you a compliment, but also to say like, you don't have to take it as whatever. So okay, Boris. Boris, why don't you tell us whatever you feel like? We got a range of different ways to respond to the question. What do you feel like is the most constructive way to kind of represent your time that you had at Worlds?
So I would say it was a waking up sort of thing. So every possible mistake that we could have made as a team, we made, but we had the best intentions. So we made an educated guess on how to approach literally every aspect of it. Turns out many of them were simply wrong because we had no experience. So for instance, turns out my list is dog ass trash in a team's event. It does nothing. It's a good singles list because it can kind of do most things into most armies. But when you go into an event where 5 out of 8 people have a very similar list, you need a list that deals with what people will bring. So there is an aspect of meta anticipation that I simply had no idea I even need to think about. Now, I'm not saying that even if I knew about it, that I would have guessed correctly, but it never even occurred to me. How do I handle, every single Guild of Summoners, every single Corn, every single Gits, every single Lumen? Like, I simply didn't really think about it. Like, I tried to make a good list without anticipating what the meta of an event would be. And it sucked real hard. Turns out slaves are very good. I mean, good enough to win like normal, fair matchups. So, I won against a mirror matchup and a Fire Slayers player, both good times. I lost all the others simply because, first of all, many of the players are simply better players. And also, I didn't really think about what I needed to bring to a team's event. So that's what I would say is my main takeaway.
Okay, well, you and I, this is a good time to talk about it, as good a time as any. You and I both sat on the pairings process the whole time. Nemanja was added, as he referenced earlier, halfway through.
I think it's the other way around, though.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, it was the other way. Sorry. I'm sorry. Well,
yeah.
Okay, but Nemanja, you took over from Marco's like kind of leading role, right? That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Nemanja was there.
Yeah.
I guess I'm fuzzy now, a month out. But in any case, let's talk about that side, Boris. What your experience was jumping on, kind of in the last 3. Do you feel like? I mean, the team can be as hard on the team as it wants, and we could talk about individual games as much as we want, but I think at the end of the day, pairing is the way you win Worlds. Like, it's huge. And that's something we could definitely have practiced more. But what were some of the things that you were trying to bring to the table when you came in halfway through?
So the idea was, I mean, the generic and easy answer is, hey, let's have more good matchups for our team. But the idea was to bring a fresher outlook to a really difficult process. Anybody who claims that, they are doing pairings very well, only a minority, I would say, of those people really do it well. It's an incredibly difficult thing to do. And as other mistakes that we've made as a team, that's one of them. We haven't practiced pairings enough. We didn't really do simulations of what would happen if I do this, what would you do, and stuff like that. And we've had difficult spots. Nemanja and I, for instance, I don't remember who did we play against, but we considered, at least Nemanja and I, that everybody in the team, 6 people got a good matchup. Him and I got the quote-unquote tough ones. And we torpedoed hard. We got 20-0'd on the auto win. I'm forgetting the name now, but like on the auto win, like
Lurkers
hold
below.
your home, middle, and Lurkers below. That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Northern Ireland. That is when we took the risk of me and Boris playing those or playing that mission or those matchups. Yeah. That's when we hope if him and I can win those 40 points for the team, it would make easier for the rest of you to like rack up to points enough for a win. That was the general idea in the 5th round.
Yeah.
And then that starts happening, and you come to the sudden conclusion of what do you do against Cinch on Lurkers below? Like, it's very difficult. And it's something as a team we've never really considered. we did pair scenarios by the color code everybody uses. We did pair matchups as well, but we haven't gone through the motion of, hey, let's put down cards. Let's see how this goes, right? Let's practice it. We simply haven't done it. So areas for improvement are very apparent, and I would say, I mean, the games went as they went. Every single player was excellent. The wins, the only 2 wins that I've gotten were well earned. The losses, I've tried to get as many points as I could where possible. But ultimately, it all went very expected. I have nothing more to say on the games themselves. Everybody here played upwards of maybe 3, maybe 4 digits of Age of Sigmar. We all know how the games went. Nothing special there. But I would say my main takeaway was simply the event and the effort it takes to practice something else than pushing miniatures around, right?
Yeah, definitely. Marco has told me that you typically are one of these people that, like, you were complaining about, like, an 18-2. Like, you'd gotten an 18-2 in one game somewhere, and you're like, oh, I didn't smash face, I didn't get 20-0. So, like, I just want to paint a picture for back home. This guy's bar for, like, being happy with himself is a little lower. Because keep in mind, our channel isn't only, like, world players. There are some people that, like, are lucky to get 10 games in a year. So, you're like, I totally got crushed, but, like, I mean, it's stiff competition, so give yourself some amount of credit. But if you had been playing Seraphon with even the old stuff, do you feel like you could have brought a different list that would have been more competitive despite the fact that it was the old rules? Are you regretting that you brought, Slaves of Darkness?
So regret is probably not the word I would use. I have zero faith in the old Seraphon, not really because of anything reasonable. It's simply I wasn't in the headspace for it. I was fully committed to the slaves. I invested a lot of effort into painting them, playing a lot of games with them, stuff like that. So I was really hoping to make it work, which ties back into what Nataša was speaking. We simply decided I'm going to do slaves, and then I did slaves. And then I was the only Kabbalist in the tournament. Everybody was Knights of the Empty Throne. So I was behind the curve on what people thought was the way to do. I was behind the curve. So it goes back into preparing more thoroughly for an event this big. And it involves even somehow realizing that, it should have been Knights of the Empty Throne, right?
Okay, so I'm going to let that be your first question for this going round. So I want to go a little bit around here. To be fair, Nemanja gave me more time to be thinking about what these questions are going to be. So I'll just start with Nemanja. Okay, Nemanja, you already referenced your Blood Pelt Hunter. How many times did you get to pull the Blood Pelt Hunter dream move that you're all about? And tell people back home what the deal was.
Oh yeah. I took by surprise, I think, 3 or 4 people. Yeah, the Blood Pelt Hunter, for those who maybe do not know, has the ability to, at the end of the opponent's movement phase, if there is no enemy unit within 9, makes a normal move. And that includes my Blood Pelt Hunter in the list had a Tunnel Master. That also includes a Tunnel Master. So basically, I can put him like in the corner or in the forest, and then when the opponent finishes his moving, I can teleport him anywhere or move him up on the objective. That came into an effect when I did the same thing against my Austrian opponent with Lumineth, and with in the last round against the Greek player or the German player who was a mercenary. I did basically the same thing. I activated my left hand objective on the middle, and then in the against the Austrian, I teleported him and denied him that objective. And in the sixth round, I already deployed him there and just moved him up on the objective. So uh, in those 2 games, as well as against the Northern Ireland, and against in the first game. Yeah, I did same thing I did Boris in our league. What I did back there was slightly different because I'm also a huge fan of rolling fives and sixes on redeploy. That's what I like the most,
You're a fan
and
of
I
it.
practiced it all. Yeah, I'm a fan, and I practiced it almost every night. You know, I say redeploy and then roll a die. I
Wow.
redeploy and roll a die. So what I did against the Polish captain, uh, we were playing Realmstone Cache. There was one objective on the center. He gave me the first turn. I moved the uh, Bloodpelt Hunter up on the objective, moved one Stonehorn Beast Riders to protect him from the bow snakes. And then he said, gaining momentum. And what I thought is that he will choose my Stonehorn Beast Riders. But no, he chose Bloodpelt Hunter because I don't know really. Maybe he was greedy, maybe he thought that he will kill him more easily. I don't know really. So what he does next, I said, okay. He doesn't know that I'm a redeploy master. He moves the Shadow Queen up. Uh, I think it was like a 5-inch distance between the Bloodpelt Hunter and the Shadow Queen. And I say, okay, now I will redeploy him. He said, okay. I roll a 5, move back. Now there's 10 inches between the two models. And then when he ended his movement, I said, okay, now I make a normal move, make an additional 8-inch move back into the forest, safe from the arrows, safe from the charges because he was more than 12 inches, denying him his battle tactic. So yeah, that's my uh,
Nice.
power play move. Yeah.
You sold the whole
That's
audience, I think.
yeah, that's something I've been in love with the whole 6 months of this GHB. You know, the tunnel mastering Bloodpelt Hunter,
You know,
and I'm really sad to see him go. You
I'm
know,
sure
I
I
will probably still play him. I will see how it goes without the tunnel master, but that was something that was so amazing
so
with this ogre list. You know,
to close that thought out, for what it's worth, I will never not hear that name not in your accent. I don't mean just a Serbian accent. I mean specifically exactly how you say Bloodpelt Hunter. I will hear for the rest of
yeah.
eternity. This is like literally today when I was going through all the points changes, I was reading through every single unit, and I was like Bloodpelt Hunter, and that was in your voice. So you've made a
Yeah.
permanent impression. Okay, Nataša. Um, all right. So the Slanesh option. We've talked about you playing the army that you had the most experience with. What do you think? Did you first off? Did you get to play against Slanesh at the tournament at all? Singles?
Yes.
You did. Do you feel
Yes.
like?
Yes.
Do you feel like if you had brought the list that you now would probably have made, that it would have performed that much better? Or do you feel like you needed more time to practice with it? Where on that spectrum do you sit? Because I know you wanted the experience, but forget the painting part of it. Well, how do you think Slanesh would have done?
Uh, Honestly, I think I would have played it worse, much worse than I played this. But I think that the advantage would have been that the other people would not be that prepared against it. Because the list that I wanted to bring was actually the Glutos list, which I think only Jeffrey had, right?
Yeah, I know he had it, but yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think that a lot of people were prepared for that particular combination and the negation of the +1 to hit, because we stack and then there is -2 to hit and so on. So I think that I would have taken more people off guard, possibly, so that maybe stuff would be different. You know, everyone's a general after the battle. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, we as a team we made an educated guess. I actually put it up to a vote. I don't know if you know. I asked every single person in the team what they think. Every single person in the team except for Zekat thought that I should go for Daughters of Cain, so I did. and I did the best I possibly could. And from a couple of people that I played against, I got the honest opinion that it was the toughest game they ever had against Outfits of Cain. So, I mean, that's something. But in the actual meta, it's just sat bad.
Yeah.
Could have, would have, should have, I don't know. I'm not thinking of that anymore. Now I'm thinking about the next one and what to do from here, how to learn from this.
Right. Okay, Boris, we've kind of covered one topic, I suppose. There's a thing that you guys very endearingly introduced to me that is the Serbian way of saying average to everything that isn't actually average. So, question, during your games, did you ever say average? I consider you the average guy. Like, of all the people that say it, you're the guy. So, for those that don't know, Boris will roll like a perfect roll, one of Nemanja's best redeploys or something. He'll roll a perfect roll, and he'll say, average. And then you'll just be like, and like, I'm too literal about this. Like, I still react negatively to this, where I'm like, that's not average. Are you stupid? And he's, of course, he knows it's not. And he's like saying, it's like his weird way of rubbing it in. So the question is, did you get to say this to someone and see what their reaction was?
Did I present the average to anyone? Let me think about it. I think there was one average moment.
Okay.
I think there was one. I believe it was my Fireslayer opponent. I believe it was game 3, so that's the first game of the second day.
Mm-hmm.
My Fireslayer opponent, like an excellent person, we played the game. He was rolling so incredibly well. I was keeping up a good face, but I was getting tilted by how well he rolled. He was giving me the average, and then I saw how it feels. But then it swung back. Then it came back into my favor. So he had everything lined up, like a Magma Droth, 2 units of Vulca. It's everything buffed up to the gills. And then I give him the Nemanja treatment, right? So I take 1 dice, and I do the movement. I look at him. Nemanja doesn't look at me though. Like, he is busy winning his game. But I establish a mental connection with the master, and then I roll that redeploy, and I get the average 6. Unlike, different averages for different people. But then of course, my chosen, just come back. So he had two priests that gave +1 damage to the unit. Every single buff on that unit. And I simply move away, he fails the charge, and then everything went downhill from there. But he received the average redeploy after giving me the average treatment. So that made me a better person now, because I know how to weaponize good rolls against an opponent's psyche.
Nice. Dwarves actually prefer downhill because it helps them catch up to everyone else. They're not very fast. So downhill for those little short, stumpy, naked dwarves is pretty good.
I was thinking more along the lines of simply rolling downhill is faster than the legs they have.
Right. Good. I'm glad someone got to feel the average, the pressure there.
Oh, it sucked. It sucked real hard.
Yeah. Okay, Nataša. Wait. No, I just did you. Okay, so wait. Nemanja.
I want my turn now. Just a moment.
Yeah. Aww. Kopje.
Here she is.
Aww. What's her name?
Maza. It means scuttles in Serbian.
Nice. Aww. I'm a huge fan. I'm hoping to get a cat if I can stay here.
It should.
Okay. So, Nemanja, speaking of dice, there's something about you that is also unique, is that you have a habit of rolling dice and then replacing them in a way that's a little disorienting to some people. Will you explain your dice rolling technique, and then also please tell me if any of your opponents had a kind of surprised reaction to this. Did you have to explain it to them beforehand?
Oh, well, that's a good story, because when you came to Serbia and saw my dice routine, you were surprised by it. So I decided to talk about it with each of my opponent. I took a few minutes before each game to explain them what I'm going to do, because I didn't want anyone to think that because it's weird. I'm going to explain it in a second, but it looks weird. But I didn't want anyone to think that I'm like shuffling the dice or doing something sketchy with them. So I made it perfectly clear to each of my opponent before game. Um, so partially, thank you for that, for bringing it to my attention,
Yeah.
because I've been doing it for, I think, like 10 years now. I inherited it from the older guys who played the 40K with me in the teams before. So basically, what I do when I roll like 6 dice and they hit on a 3, and I roll like from 1 to 6, I rotate out those who rolled good. So basically, what I would do, I would take out the 5 and 6 and put them on a side, and take those 4 hits that I will roll again, and then to take 1, 2, 3, 4, and then roll them to wound. So I would almost always rotate those who rolled good, mainly 6s and 5s, sometimes 4s if I have the time, you know. But I would do that rotation because those dice that rolled good now aren't going to roll good again. That's something I do, you know, and it works for me. Not every time, but most of
It does look a
So-
little sleight of hand ish. It does look like
Yeah,
you're doing stuff,
yeah.
and it catches me
Yeah.
off. It caught me off guard for sure. But like you're such a lovely
Yeah,
person,
yeah.
it's easy to trust you're not cheating. But I'm glad you did tell people because who knows, language barriers.
Yeah, I
things
did
kinda
it.
gotta
I
be-
did it beforehand, as I said, because you brought it to my attention, and I want to be a super open with everyone, you know.
Yeah.
And some of those guys found it amusing. Some found it like, that's actually not a bad routine, you know. So if anyone has the time, and if anyone figured it out how it works, you should definitely try it. Maybe it also works for you.
It's confusing. All right, Nataša. One of the things that I noticed about your play style, like a meta thing about your play style, was your time usage. But I heard through both singles, because obviously I knew at least one of your opponents, and I heard also through the team stuff that you have actually sped up quite a bit in the intervening time. It sounds like your sense of clock use. You finished earlier than me in a lot of games. So, what's the trick? What did you do? Did you change your diet? What happened here? What did we do to kind of get you in that direction?
Well, to be honest, I have 2 modes. I have competition mode, and then I have learning mode. You saw me in learning mode because I was the first person playing from our little group against you and your KO, which was something I never saw before, and that's why that game was so long. I'm very slow when I'm learning something for the very first time, and when I'm really trying to learn and not play. So you saw me at my worst, so to say, at time usage, right? But when I play competitively, this is something I learned from Boris, and that is the gut instinct, that you want to speed up your game just feeling what you should be doing and not overthinking it, because I overthink. I have the tendency of trying to calculate, because I'm a physicist. By profession, I want to calculate the dice, see if this is the best move, what should I do, or should I go over there, and then every move lasts forever. This is something I don't do when I'm on a clock. I just feel it, I do it. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Often it does, actually, because I had a lot of games. So my clock never drops. Never. It drops in the 4th or the 5th round, not in the 2nd,
Sure.
right? Anymore. Because I was a meme in Serbia for a very long time that I play 5+ hour games. and that I will never be able to play competitively because of this. And this is something that I trained a lot. This is possibly the thing I put the most effort in playing. And actually, it turns out that Nemanja and me, we usually play in the finals on our local things. And he uses this against me, the bitch he is, every single time because he pressures me on time. And then I lose. So, I mean, obviously, I lose because of other things too, but this is something he uses. Time is something I have been working on in the last year, so to say. So I wasn't impressed by my time usage, but I see how it looks new. But yeah.
For what it's worth, it wasn't just my impression from our game that we had when I visited Serbia. It was also from what I knew of what had happened at the Alliance Open Teams event before. That those events, I think you've sped up even since then, and that was in a competitive setting too. So it's meant as a compliment as well to say like you figured it out, you got there, and I like look, Boris. At least a couple of you saw me running to the bathroom while I was on my last 5 minutes. I still won that game, but it was an experience. So Lumina plays real slow sometimes though, with a lot of analysis paralysis in the hero phase. My KO list plays a lot faster, but it is what it is. Okay, the last round, what I want it to be is kind of a merging of something else we wanted to talk about was talking about the stuff that we did showing, like when I was showing you guys around town. We decided we'd talk about this. So Boris, give me a highlight of the day of walking, since you so eloquently put it, the day of walking. Tell me what your takeaway was of Amsterdam. I know you had said that you and your wife had talked about the possibility of maybe one day in an alternate reality moving to Amsterdam. So maybe that was kind of part of your experience for that too.
Yeah, she's very eco-friendly oriented. So, I try to recycle even here in Serbia, trash into different places, which is definitely not a thing in Belgrade. Yeah. But we did consider it. She has distant relatives there or something. So maybe one day, who knows? But the thing that impressed me the most, I will say three things impressed me. Number one, every single house is very narrow and has a hook on top. Like that's beyond insane to me that you can, like, I imagine a piano getting like rolled up by rope into like the top floor, which was really relevant to me because I'm currently renovating the new place I'm going to move into, and I could really use like a pulley system, that would really help. So that was really impressed. I was simply impressed is the wrong word, but I don't know. It caught me by surprise. Number two is simply the non-existence of a automobile vehicle. I mean, there are a few, of course, but it is also the regions we walked. But the car density is, I would go as far as to say, like below 1% to what I see every day over here. It's incredible. And number three, I would say there aren't really a lot of people there. That was a bit strange. So the entire day of walking around, I didn't have, maybe once or twice, but I could always walk in a straight line. Like there was never anyone, like it looks a bit, well, apart from the touristy areas, right? Like the tourist traps, as you call them. But it looked to be, I don't know. It was very scenic, very movie-like, very, very from a picture. There were like 2 people here, 3 people there. Everything was pristinely clean. There was no dog shit on the ground. Like it looked incredible. Everything was nice. There is history over there, but no people though, and no cars.
It's funny.
So it was.
Please,
it was really nice. Yeah. It was really nice overall, I'm going to say.
What's funny is the Netherlands is the most densely populated country in Western Europe. So the idea that you think there aren't a lot of people, I don't know what that says. Maybe it was just a weird day. Nemanja, you were there on a warm day. Did you feel like it had very few people?
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say that there weren't any people, but I didn't feel like crowded or anything, Okay. It was like okay, like average amount of people for that space or that street, except for the tourists. tourist
If I leave
attraction.
my building now and walk across the street to go to the supermarket, I would have to avoid maybe 5 people walking into me. So,
Yeah, but maybe
like,
that's something that has more with the people who live here, you know?
yeah, also that, probably that now that you say it, but it doesn't go with my narrative, so I will disregard it.
Boris, in wrapping up your part of this, I have to say I really noticed how inquisitive you were. You came up to me multiple times during my forcing everyone to walk around the city day, and came up to me to ask random questions. And as the person
Yep.
guiding you around, I really appreciate that. So thank you for asking.
Nice.
Nemanja, while we're kind of got you going on this, you and I had a day after everyone. You weren't. Because it was just a different scenario. You had flown in later and all this stuff, and you'd also intentionally flown out later on the day you were leaving. What
Yes.
stuck with you that day?
Well, as we said earlier, I came on Thursday, but I came like on about 4 p.m. So I wanted to go directly to the to tournament to see the venue, to see the tables and everything. So I purposefully left the Monday open. So I took the evening flight, so I could experience the city because as I told you that day, I didn't go anywhere more north than Munich.
Oh yeah,
I went almost on every major city on the Mediterranean coast, from like Istanbul and Turkey to Lisbon. So I've been everywhere, but not no more northern than the Munich. So this was like a great opportunity, and I didn't want to miss it. To at least take a day or a half a day to see the city. And you were a wonderful host. You waited for me on the airport. We left the baggage and left for the city unencumbered. So when you asked me what do I want to see and everything, I completely trusted your instinct, and you made such a good route through the city. You showed me such a wonderful things. We also met the guys from the Northern Ireland. We pointed in the right direction, what they definitely wanted to see, not what they told us,
yeah.
but we knew what they were looking for.
Right.
So, and then yeah, we made quite a circle around the city,
Yeah.
and I was amazed. You know, the city looks um, really nice. The Everything is in order as one architect loves. You know, everything has its place. The houses are all in order. Some are like older, some are more newer, but everything's fall into a nice shape. We also made it to like the museum quarter.
Hmm.
That was nice.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
didn't make it
there
there
were a
with the
lot
rest.
of
Yeah.
yeah there were lots of people there, but it was a nice day. I think that it was cloudy when
That's
the
true.
the others were.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really a nice day. I was happy that uh, it was sunny. It was about 20 degrees, so it was warm, but not too warm, so we could walk around,
Yeah.
sit in the park and everything. So
Yeah. You know what was fun is
it
that
it, it, it was amazing experience.
I had a great time too, and the stress of the whole week was a different vibe because it was kind of
Yeah,
like we knew
yeah,
it was over, and we decompressed a lot about the tournament. But probably one of the coolest things about showing you around in particular was that being an architect as you are, I'm a novice appreciator of architecture in general. So trying to show you some of the stuff that I think is cool. A lot of times when I show people that stuff, they're just kind of like, okay, whatever. You were very appreciative, so it was really nice.
yes.
Okay, Nataša, rounding us out. What did you walk away from? Unfortunately, that day you had something to drink that kind of threw your system off, and I felt bad
Yeah.
because it kind of messed up the second half of that walking around for you. I'm sure, but is there anything positive that you did get to walk away from? I know you're one of the only people that already been to Amsterdam, so you probably had a different vibe.
Yeah, Yeah, I have been a couple of times already as a tourist, so I have seen most of the things. So I wasn't shocked in any way, and nothing was new. But it was a very beautiful experience of being navigated around by someone who lives there. That's different, and the input you gave us is something you don't get from a tourist guide, or when you're by yourself as a tourist somewhere. So that was nice, and having my friends and all of us be there, it was different. And they are actually making a joke of me that I sweared in Serbian, and I said, I don't know how to translate it. It's non-translatable, but I told them something like, "Fuck you guys, I'm having a nice time," or something like that. Yeah, because it was really a beautiful day. Yeah, I got a sugar rush because I think Boris, you bought the Mr. Pepper, was it?
And it was Andre and Mia, right?
Yeah, I think that Boris, Andre, and Mia bought a Mr. Pepper because whatever. And then I had to try it, and I drank way too much of it, and I got a sugar high. And I'm keto; I don't drink sugar. I don't eat sugar. So I basically felt like I'm gonna die. It was terrible. It's disgusting. Don't ever drink it.
I think it was a Dr. Pepper, but it was like a weird spin-off of a Dr. Pepper. Yeah. In any case, knowing the way that you and I had left off my trip to Serbia, I remember in particular picking you up from the airport. I remember everyone being super warm, because that's what you guys are and that's the connection I have. But it felt extra warm. You were so excited too, and hopefully that energy keeps going for every time we all end up hanging out too. But you always come with such a positive vibe. And that's what kind of stuck with me from that day, even though unfortunately you were feeling bad by the end. And then we all had Mexican food together, and unfortunately you didn't get to have any of that either. So I owe you a Mexican experience next time too. So
yeah, but I had a beer and then I was better.
Right. Okay, so closing out, let's talk about what is in the future for the Serbian meta. Your scene and putting together tournaments and training and just other things related to AoS. Any thoughts you might have on the new season? Obviously, this year is going to be quite different because we're going to have one GHB and we're not going to have that much turnover with books. And who knows what's going to happen going into fourth, but it's looking like the Dawnbringer Crusades books are mainly going to be Regiments of Renown, which from a competitive level probably isn't what people are going to be taking. I think out of all of the Worlds teams, there was only one person who brought a regiment of Renown, and that was one of the guys on the Dutch team, Lex, who brought like the zombie corpse cart thing in his Night Haunt list. Now, granted, at that point, we're probably going to have 4 or so books, each with, let's say, 4 boxes worth of, I think they said 12 in total might be coming out. So let's say there's 12 extra Regiments of Renown plus the 4 that are 6 it was, that were already out. So we're looking at about 18, but I don't see that being a huge meta changer. We might have a new Incarnate by that time. We'll have new Feck book. And a new cities book, but who knows how important those are going to be to the meta. So one of the subtopics we could be having here is what armies you realistically think you're going to be looking at going in. Nataša, to your point earlier about maybe you don't play the army that you know the best, but you play one that's the most necessary for the meta, which of course we won't know. But one of the things we will know is that people will have more time with the missions. They'll have more time with the existing armies. And the meta will have solved itself in a way, so which will probably test better players than it will better knowledge of what the armies are per se that are out there. It won't be any gotchas with people that don't know how Khorne works because they haven't played against it a lot, So I think it's going to be a very different kind of Worlds experience. Plus, what we've already experienced firsthand is how much more competitive it got, knocking England off of its throne. A lot of teams performed worse than they had in previous years. Some performed better. But in general, it's going to be a whole new experience, I think. So that's setting the stage. Who wants to run with that ball and run with it? And then we can kind of adjust the conversation. So Serbian meta might be a good way to start, or talking about what we expect the meta to be in the next Worlds. So who wants to run with that?
Nemanja, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Well, we should definitely have more consistent and more familiar lists and meta in general, because, as you said, we are going to have all third edition battle tomes, which is uh, which is good. I think that because, as Boris previously said, we are slightly falling behind the curve because we do not have that large community. We do not have that much tournaments. So more time to prepare in a more stable environment will be more beneficial for us in general, because when we prepared for these AoS Worlds, we had like from January there was like 6 new battle tomes or something like that, and we didn't have enough time to play against all those armies. So for the next year, I'm hoping for a more stable state of meta, and I think that will work more beneficially, even in the small communities such as ours. Uh, I always have hope that more people will come and play, and then we will have more tournaments and everything. But if that doesn't happen, we will still have more time for the people who wish to get involved with the AoS Worlds to try and play a couple of armies. I have plans for myself, maybe to play Feck, maybe to play Gargants, maybe to play Blades of Corn. I'm waiting to see what will happen. I will definitely start with ogres. I have made some adjustments to my AOS Worlds list, because uh, what I see from people at first, even today, when I looked at the battle scroll changes, is that people react to the changes in points and start making lists that are more adapt to the previous general's handbook.
Mhm.
But what I do is I look at the battle tactics available to my army, both generic one and the ogre specific one. I'm obviously familiar with the ogre specific one, but the generic one from the GHB have changed. Uh, I do not have a need to, for example, to play a blood hunter because the cunning maneuver is gone. But there are some other uh, battle tactics that require you to be like within 3 different battlefield edges, more units outside of your deployment, and that's when some other units come into play. They are not necessarily the strongest units, but they enable you to get those battle tactics more efficiently. So that's something I'm looking forward to. Starting to work on those lists, trying to see what other armies are going to do, and I will definitely try to play more than one army in this cycle of the GHB and everything.
Yeah, that's fair. So you guys were talking. You were mentioning the tournament type potential and getting more people in the scene. When you guys train as a
Yes.
team, do you want to maybe bring in a bigger pool of people that all train together all the time? I don't know if that's how it normally works, and then select out of that group, and that way you have access to more people. Or do you find it's like I think the Danish team actually mainly just practice against themselves because sometimes if you play super casual games, it doesn't necessarily teach you a lot. So I've heard both perspectives on this. What do you think is reasonable for you guys moving forward? And this is addressed to anyone, not just you, Nemanja. It could be anyone that has an opinion on it.
Yeah. Well, for starters, I don't think that we have like uh, the luxury only to play like high competitive games. I think that even in the like semi-competitive or even casual games, you can learn something about the army, you know, because your opponent might not be the best player, but he will almost always take something that is like meta, you know, either artifact or a combo like, I don't know, 15 Thunderers in Ironclad. So you can use that opportunity to see uh, how many wounds can Ironclad take or sink. You know how many damage can those units dish out. So maybe start the with a semi-competitive play against a broader spectrum of players, and then when as the worlds comes closer and closer, maybe some of the people who are more competitive can take those lists and play it against other players. You know, because until that time, some of us will make the general idea of how something works, like how some corn lists work, how some zinc lists work, and you will have the general idea how to move it, you know, and how something works. Maybe you're not definitely going to be the best player in the faction, you know, but you can use that knowledge to pass on to other teammates and make them prepare better.
Guys,
Yeah,
what's
I'll
the
jump
yep.
along on that one. Yeah, I'll jump along on that one. So I'll start broader and more personal. So my idea, at least for myself, is hopefully stick with these two factions, but I can reasonably swap over given that we have access probably to every single one locally. But speaking more broadly in terms of what we can do for ourselves to grow as a representation, let's call it like that. Soon enough, I think August probably will have a tournament. A couple of months after that, we'll hopefully every 3 months. That's the hope. Maybe more. Who knows? Depends on the turnout, right? But it's all about the local tournaments, and then hopefully, at least myself, I'm looking to potentially maybe travel, like let's call it near Serbia geographically. Maybe something interesting is going on that doesn't cost a 1,200 euro, like 7 free days taken, like something more normal, let's call it, right? Simply to experience different players, because for instance, in that's the first time I've seen it, and now, I mean, now it makes sense, right? But I've never seen a contorted epitome give out a rally to trigger strength of godhood to then fight in the hero phase more effectively, right? I've never seen that before Worlds. So stuff like that, like it simply needs experience.
What's the
That's my
tournament?
brief take.
What's the tournament set up for you guys at home? Like you were talking about something in August. Who runs
So,
these tournaments? You know, like what? Give me the rundown of how it's going to look.
so Serbia literally has one, well, Belgrade has one predominant gaming club, let's call it, and there are a few others as well, which have a bit less presence, let's call it. And whoever has like the free time and the willpower to wrangle people, that's the guy that's going to run the tournament. And there is a very low number of those willing people. So it's a bit of a hectic situation, let's call it like that. But we'll see. So currently we are planning on doing one in like the Games Workshop store type of club, like they are an official vendor. We'll hope to do it there, hoping for a good turnout, and maybe we can poke some people and get them to play more.
Yeah, I heard through maybe Marco or one of you guys that there might be something in like November, December as well. And maybe you're trying to
Yep.
do a few in the like because what's you Natasha in the last video that we did you said like you asked us to try to guess how many tournaments you've had in like the past year or whatever, and it was 2 to 3 I think was the answer. Are you guys trying to push to get that higher? Is there a way to kind of make that happen with the willpower that's available on the team, or is it going to have to be relying on external circumstances to make that happen?
Well, there are people that are prepared to organize in our group. So the tournament is going to happen in August. Marco is actually making it. And I'm not sure, maybe Nemanja should say it himself, but I think that you wanted to make the groups one, right?
Yeah,
Or am I wrong?
I brought to his attention the idea to maybe try and organize a four-person team tournament, but it's still an idea because we had such a tournament for 40K like 5 years ago, and it was amazing. I think that people who came were not necessarily like hardcore tournament players, but they had such a great time because playing Warhammer is great, but playing Warhammer with your friends in a team trying to achieve a team victory is even better. That's maybe a peak of Warhammer playing for me, at least. So we have the general idea. We do not know uh, when to put that tournament in the calendar because we have one singles in August that's like locked in, and we have Gamescom, like a large gaming convention in Belgrade that usually happens at the end of November or start of December. So, but we do not have information about the Gamescom just yet. Sometimes they even announce it in like September or so. So we are waiting for those information. If there is going to be a Gamescom, we are definitely going to have a singles tournament there, and we are going to try to invite foreigners. People who are mainly in the neighboring countries, but I don't know, maybe in whole Europe to try to get them to come to Serbia. The Gamescom was usually our like premier event, but it required a painted armies, and there are not much fully painted armies in Serbia. Most of them are like semi-painted or uh, unpainted. So
All right.
even myself, I painted my whole army like 3 weeks, 2 weeks before the event. So,
Yeah. Okay.
but now I'm a painter. I'm a complete hobbyist now, and I'm going to come to Gamescom with my fully painted army. Even if it requires that I paint a few additional heroes, units, etc.
Right.
Yeah, now
So
you have changed. You have felt it now.
Yeah, yeah.
the neighboring countries, you guys are more isolated from the other worlds teams than some of the other worlds teams, right? Like, what are the top three closest worlds countries that competed this year to you guys? And how hard would it be to set up something with them to like have a kind of like go to one of their tournaments or practice in their meta so that you have a little more exposure to
I
literally the
would
teams from
say
worlds?
Italy and
Greece.
Greece.
Yeah, Italy, Greece, Poland, Austria. Those are
And
all,
Czechia,
and
Czechia.
Czech. Yeah, Czechs, and those are all like drive distance away.
Yeah. So I mean, could you get maybe at least three, like an event that where three of those countries at least could come together and you guys could practice with each other on a semi-regular basis? Would that be possible?
Yeah,
We
that
hope
is
so.
something we talked about with their players, like in between games. I think Marco spoke with their captains or generally with their players. Something about uh, it's also a far-fetched idea, but I think that something similar to a Six Nation, but in this part of the Europe,
Yeah.
would be beneficial because. Uh, a lot of those nations like Austria, Czech Republic, Greece, and our team were all in the like bottom third of the worlds. And I think that's just because we play a lot less tournaments and a lot less team tournaments. The Six Nation is a great preparation for Worlds because it happens like maybe few months before. So they all have like more tougher preparations than the rest of the continent.
Right. I mean, let me know when something big like that's happening. I'd like to try to work it into my schedule so I can come play with you guys. And I might not be able to make the one in August because I'm already committed to a tournament 4 days after I come back from the States, where I'll be for 2 weeks. But otherwise, I would love to come. So if it ends up making sense, I'll try to make it to the next one. Is there anything else you guys want to round out and talk about looking towards the future, like armies that you're interested in? Obviously, a lot could change between now and then. Is there anything that's like really getting you excited about the coming year of preparation?
Like, are we gonna pretend the battle scroll isn't amazing? I mean, the FAQ, the errata kind of killed my hopes and dreams for Seraphon, because I was hoping to have, like a Starborn list for my frogs, and then if I wanted to be a man and play melee, I would have slaves. Starborn might be dead, might not be dead. We'll see if something changes the toxic trog bomb, as they call it. But yeah, the battle scroll is amazing. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all shakes up, because I'm looking at it through a slave's perspective, right? So nothing in there was truly amazing, but across the board minuses, where everything else that is oppressive and strong went up. Like, hopefully it equals out. We'll see how well, but I'm looking forward to it. And two things happened at the same time. We came back defeated, and we came back knowing that there is going to be a new GHB and everything very soon. So we were kind of in limbo. Like, how do we reinvigorate the fun and the drive and everything related to the hobby? When, like, why would I try hard 2 weeks with the same thing that failed the tournament before? Like, I'm gonna wait for the new thing. The new thing is here. Hopefully this weekend we get some fun going, and I don't know. It's gonna be a good time moving forward. That's all I'm gonna say. Well, no spoilers. I was hoping for a Dread Saurian revival. Didn't happen.
Okay, sure. That's getting your hopes real high.
Yeah, I was really hoping like they were gonna release the Monster Arcanum out of nowhere, but no.
I mean, that's kind of like Nataša hoping for like Kane himself to come back. I mean, I think it's long gone at this point. Nataša, what's on your radar for the coming preparations and just whatever you're excited about? Obviously, Slaanesh, we've talked about that, but anything else that's kind of piquing your interest? Nope.
Boris has died.
No, I'm still here. I'm just getting something.
He wants to show something. So I gotta be honest, I took some time off from AoS, from the Worlds to now. I just needed some time to rearrange my life back, because I spent a lot of time in the preparations. I played like 5 games a week for months. And now I'm doing other stuff and enjoying the summer, to be honest. So I haven't really went. Oh, hi there.
Wow, look at that base.
Yeah,
that's a girthy.
That's such a beautiful model. It's such a shame you cannot play
Too bad. Yep.
Too bad, my man. Too bad.
Yeah,
too bad.
Such a girthy base.
So I really haven't did a deep dive yet into the new stuff. I haven't been list building and so on. We'll see. I'm playing my first game in the GHB now on Saturday. So I'll tell you later, right? I have no clue for now. For now, I'm just gonna hang out with Slaanesh and have fun.
Yeah, that's smart. I mean, a lot could change between now and then, and we're gonna have battle scrolls that are gonna keep coming out. And who knows? It's possible they would give us new missions halfway through and just wouldn't be in a GHB. Who knows what GW is gonna do? They keep mixing things up. So, and we'll have 4th edition right after Worlds. So things are gonna change in any case pretty soon. So. Nemanja, if you were to expand outside of ogres, you were mentioning a few armies in there that you might take up. Are those armies you actually would be passionately like collecting, or are you just open to playing the ones you mentioned?
Well, out of those, I have access to Mega Gargants, because a few of us bought bought them from Saki, one of the guys who is close to people from the team. So they are in.
I bought gifts from him.
Yeah, he is our unofficial supplier.
Wow. Yeah, your
He buys
dealer.
everything and then recycles it.
Yeah,
Nice.
I was really excited to see the updates from their core battalions. They now get both benefits, you know. So I will definitely try them out at some point with the new GHB. But the army I am also passionate about collecting, and he has been my secret love for a long time, is flesh eater courts. You know, slightly slimmer guys, but also they like to eat. You know.
Yes, they do like to eat. I know. I mean, as someone who is great friends with a very big feck aficionado, I have had plenty of feck experience, and unfortunately, that battletome's gotten dragged out for such a long time. I'm kind of scared of what's going to happen with it. It's either going to be really amazing or really underwhelming. I think I don't see it being too middling. Yeah, so we'll see what happens.
I have the same feeling. Yeah, definitely. I'm really hoping to be really good, of course. Not get good, you know. I'm not into broken stuff, but yeah, I really like the models, and I do not have the problem that they all look like the same or similar. I'm fine with that. The story about the knights that go on the holy quests and everything while they are looking like Nosferatus is something cool. And I have really easy paint scheme for them. It's basically paint undercoat them in black, make them like some zenithal, some here and there like light gray wash, and a lot of blood. You know, all bone and a lot of blood. You know.
There you go. It works.
I have it in my head like a fully painted army, ready to be set on the table.
Yeah, you just now that you're a hobbyist, you're going to be painting all the time. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We did a long one here, and it's lovely getting some quality time in with you. We had the GorkaMorka technical problems. We had cats. We had a Dread Saurian make an appearance. It's been a nice ride with you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope everyone that's been checking this out has enjoyed it. I know I always do. And we'll have to pick your brains. Boris, we're going to have you on soon to talk about Seraphon. It sounds like you're saltier than you would have been had we covered it a week ago. So we'll get some of that Boris salt in there. But we'll have you on talking about that sooner than later. And, guys, it's been lovely. Nataša, if you want to end up talking about coming on and talking about Slaanesh at some point, we also asked you if you want to do that. So if you get the inspiration to do that, I'm sure we're still due for making that video too. And Nemanja, of course, will find a way to get you in here. To the rest of the team that's been checking this out, hopefully, sorry we haven't talked as much about you guys as we did at the first video. This is more just the format that we've got going on. But obviously, I love all of you, and can't wait to have a chance to chat with you guys too on video at some point. So anyway, in the meantime, thank you so much for being a part of it. Anything you guys want to say or shout out on the way out?
Nemanja first.
Oh yeah, I want to shout out. I want to shout out my friend Jovan, who has been following your channel. He is an Illuminate aficionado, and he's been following your channel since its beginning.
Oh, really?
So he will definitely watch this video, and this is for him.
Thanks for being a fan or following the channel. I wasn't even here at the beginning, so I can't even take credit for it. So yeah, awesome. Anyone else want to do a shout out?
Nataša, go.
Shout out to the new people that have appeared in our scene in the last couple of weeks. I think that maybe 5 or 6 of us actually had like a showcase game. I don't know if they will ever see this video, but I'm very happy that new blood is coming in.
Nice.
So that's amazing.
Definitely. Boris, you got anything
I'm
for
gonna
us?
shout out. Yeah, I'm gonna shout out anybody that wants to buy like a fairly okay painted Slaves to Darkness army. Like I'm open to deals. I got every model in plenty of number. Nah, joking aside, like shout out to everybody involved, yourself, Ryan. It's always great to see everybody that was with us that was not mentioned. You know who you are. Everybody else that we don't care about enough to mention, you know who. It's all good. When it's getting late, I'm getting spicy, so I'm gonna cut my losses here.
All right, guys. I love you all, and I'll see you on the next video. Okay. All right.
Bye.
And there we have it. Thank you guys so much again for checking out these long videos. It really means a lot to us. As always, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Comment below. Let us know what you think. And join us in the Discord. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers now, so we're inching ever closer to celebrating with a table talk most likely, but who knows? Maybe some other stuff going on in the channel. I'll have to talk to Jonas now that he's back from vacation. So anyway, thanks again, guys. And in the meantime, as always, Ryan out.